What's up, everybody? What's up? EBC Media here for my first official, since the season started, volleyball podcast. I did the preseason kind of rundown of what I thought might happen this year. The season has started. It's been about 2 weeks. I wanted to wait until the first 2 weeks were over to really jump into this. I'm going to try to do it weekly if I can, depending on how many games there are and kind of what's going on, what happens. But anyway, here we are officially week one, I guess. We've been 2 weeks in, but volleyball season has started. And first, I want to say, if you are not following my boys and I at Idaho Underground Sports Network, that is my other page that I'm doing with Boise Sports Talk and Game Time Guru. We do the top volleyball highlights from that page. We do the score updates from that page, set and match scores I will send over there at the games I'm at. And then we do football there, basketball. All the top highlights and kind of main things we all do together are from that platform. So give us a follow. Here we go at Idaho Underground Sports on Instagram. That would be much appreciated. Trying to build that platform just as much as I'm trying to build this one. So it's all kind of one thing. So check that out at Idaho Underground Sports on Instagram. Would be much appreciated. I want to give a shout out to Eagle Ridge Apparel for all this beautiful gear they make. These jerseys I've started to make. They do a really good job. If you need any work done, Eagle Ridge Apparel is the best of the best. So if you need information on that, reach out to me, Eagle Ridge Apparel. Shout out for everything you do. But anyway, let's jump into this. I'm going to touch on 3 different subjects, I guess, here. I'm going to do the updated 5A state power rankings. Then I'm going to do the updated 5A SIC rankings. There's some things to talk about there. And then the 4A state rankings. And if my camera looks like it's tripping out, it's because it's new. I'm trying to figure out how to get it in focus. So if anything's tripping out, I apologize for that. Technical difficulties. Like I said, still trying to figure this out and get used to it. Shout out to Game Time Guru for helping me figure this out. But anyway, so let's jump into this here. I'm going to tweak the camera slightly. There we go. See the light pop on. Anyway, let's jump into this. I'm going to throw the updated 5A state power rankings up. People probably want to see what that looks like instead of listening to me talk. But not a lot changes in the top 4. Stays the exact same. You've got Madison, Eagle, Post Falls, Thunder Ridge, and then Mountain View jumps up a spot. Lake City jumps up 3 spots. Coeur d'Alene is new into the top 10. Highland is also new. Rocky jumps up 1 spot, and Hawaii stays at 10, where they were previously tied with Rocky Mountain. And I will touch on that a little bit later, why that happened. But anyway, Madison. It looks dominant. They've lost a couple sets in a couple different games to Skyline and I believe Bonneville, but they look dominant. Saw some highlights today. All the highlights are starting to be posted, and I'm starting to reshare and whatnot. Kinley Kerbs from Madison had an unbelievable one-handed set she set up to Charli Cook. Check that out on my story if it's still there by the time I post this. But anyway, Madison looks dominant, like expected. I was surprised that they lost a set to Skyline, and then they lost a set to Bonneville. I do like Bonneville. I'll touch on that in a minute in the 4A rankings. So that didn't surprise me as much. It just kind of confirmed to me that Bonneville's got some dudes. The Skyline set they lost was kind of surprising, but still early in the season, trying to find a rhythm, trying to figure it out, and they'll get there. They'll get to their peak when they need to be, just like they did last year. Next is Eagle. Saw Eagle play twice this week against Hawaii and Rocky, who are actually both in my top 10 because still in my top 10 because I did see them play. Eagle isn't there yet. They lost their very first set of the season to Hawaii, and then they ran off 3 straight. Probably should have lost in the 4th game, but found a way to grind that one out. So they didn't go 5 games against a scrappy, solid young Hawaii team. And then they beat Rocky Mountain. They should have lost the first game there. Stormed back late, down 3. I think it was, so at one point it was 23-20. I believe, and they came back and they won that 26-24, which is extremely impressive. And then that just took the wind out of Rocky Mountain. So that was impressive. Liv Manning for me has been the best player I have seen in person all year thus far. In the 2 games I've watched her. And I've seen Columbia play and I've seen some other teams play, but Liv Manning for me at Eagle has has blown my mind so far. Maddie Hauskins as well has played well. Delaney Bub, Sofie Morton, and Maija Howse, the two transfers. Maija Howse from BK, she's a sophomore, and then Sofie Morton's a senior from Orange County, California. They are both very good volleyball players. They're still getting incorporated and implemented into what Eagle's doing, but man, two weapons there, two huge transfers. Like they take them to another level, and they haven't even found their rhythm yet. They're like I said, they're just starting to figure things out there. But so Madison and Eagle, I'll talk a lot about. Those are the top two teams in 5A for me. Those are the teams to beat. I will be surprised anytime either one of those teams loses a set. I just think they're that good. I mean, if Eagle loses a set to anyone in their league, it'll be a surprise. Same with Madison. There are good teams out there that will scrap and probably do that, because I'm learning that volleyball is that way. A lot of these teams who played each other these last 2 weeks, there was a lot of times when I would look at a score and be like, oh, okay, they took them to 5, or they really took a set from them. And that actually happened a lot, like for the Skyline Madison. I believe that happened with Post Falls and Lakeland. I was surprised Lakeland took one off Post Falls, but it looks like it happens more often than I think. So like I said, I'm learning here as well. But anyway, those are the top two teams. And then third for me, Post Falls. Post Falls went 7-0 at the CUNA tournament and won the CUNA tournament when they came down. They beat Boise in the championship, which is impressive to go 7-0. So they went 7-0. They haven't lost a game yet this year. They beat Lakeland in 4 games. Lakeland has been surprising. They swept Lewiston. They're a 4A team that jumped into the top 10 this year. But Post Falls looks good. Trinity, Byrne, and Jenna Sarff are really helping out Kylie Munday up there, which was anticipated. They've got weapons around Kylie Munday, more so than I think expected. Post Falls is it's early, but they look dangerous. They look like a team that could, kind of mess up that Madison Eagle Tea Party at the end of the year. I would anticipate Kylie Munday and the girls over at Post Falls to be the ones that would screw that Tea Party up, like I was saying. But I like Post Falls. Kylie Munday is the best player in 5A that I've seen. I watched her last year. Looking forward to watching her again this year. Didn't get to make it out to the CUNA tournament, unfortunately, but Kylie Monday's a monster. Thunder Ridge hasn't lost, and they've beat some good teams. Thunder Ridge they swept Century, who is one of their top 4A teams. And then I believe they also beat Bonneville. I think they beat Bonneville in 4 games, which I was really excited to follow that game. Thunder Ridge beats Bonneville. So they stay at 4 for me. Mountain View moves up. Timberline lost to Capital, so they dropped out of the top 10. Centennial lost a couple games. They dropped out. So Mountain View moved up. We've got Lake City has not lost. They moved up. Coeur d'Alene has not lost. They moved into my top 10. Lake City moved up 3 spots. Coeur d'Alene is new. Highland is also new. Highland was playing in a tournament double elimination where they lost the first game and then won out the rest of the day. They did not lose, and they got some girls that are high up on the hitters rankings in the state. If you check out Max Preps, that's Kaylin Hay and Ashlyn Smith. They're handling business out there for Highland, and Highland is a team that I didn't know much about, but I'm learning about, and they jump into my top 10. They jump all the way up to 8. Them and Coeur d'Alene both jump Rocky and Hawaii for me, because neither of them has lost, and what they've been doing has been impressive. But anyway, Rocky Mountain, I watched Rocky Mountain play. Really like what they got there. They are scrappy. They are tough. They are confident. Should have beat Eagle in the first set. Didn't. Showed their youth after that. Eagle kind of dominated from there on out, but that had a lot to do with a coaching move that Eagle made. Rocky Mountain is good. Rocky Mountain could be a state tournament team, I think. There's a lot more teams to watch. I'm watching Timberline this Tuesday. I'll see Mountain View the following week, Centennial, those type of teams. But Rocky Mountain and Hawaii, who's 10 right behind them, I think if I had to put money on it at this point, way early in the season, I'm picking Rocky and Hawaii to be 2 of those teams from the SIC that make it to state, most likely, at least from what I've seen. So Rocky Mountain looked good. Taryn Miller, Ella Peterson, Aubrey Evans, they've got girls all over the place that know what they're doing, know how to play volleyball, are good at their positions. Taryn Miller, the sophomore, was really impressive at libero. She's a dog. Really like watching Rocky Mountain play. Well coached. So we'll see how they do against these other teams that are not Eagle. Same with the Waihi. Waihi beat Eagle in the first set. Super impressed. They looked like a different team than they did against Columbia. They were not ready for Columbia. They were ready for Eagle. They should have taken it to a fifth set. They're young. They didn't finish games last year. They finished the first one and then didn't finish the fourth one. So that's something that if they can lock in and they can finish, they're going to be a very good team. And a lot of people don't know about my Waihi hype for volleyball. I've seen them a ton, and I see their youth, and I understand that athletes grow during the season. These girls are going to grow and get better and better. Michaela Roy looked unbelievable against Eagle. So did Ella Leishman. They've got to get their setter, Shani McWilliams, healthy. She did not play in their second game. She's vital to their success. Kaya Gearhart played well against Eagle as well. So Waihi, Rocky, both going to be formidable. So that's my top 10. Let's jump over to the SIC rankings. Talk some SIC volleyball here. I believe. Yes, here we go. So Eagle stays in the one spot. Mountain View is 2-0, and they have not lost a set yet, and they're looking dangerous. They beat a 2-0 Meridian team in 3 games at Meridian. That was impressive. I know Meridian was hyped for that game, but Mountain View has the best setter in the league and the best player in the league, in my opinion. Tenysen Fry, Sierra Grizzle, the best duo in the league. Eagle's going to have some duos that are going to be able to challenge that from, Hauskins and Manning have looked crazy as well. But when you've got the top setter and I think the top overall player, that's tough to beat out. So Sierra Grizzle, Tenysen Fry at Mountain View, they're handling business. They're 2-0. They have one more very winnable game this week. And then I think they head to a tournament in Idaho Falls. So then the following week is when their schedule starts getting pretty tough. I think they have a Waihi and Rocky in the same week, and then they have Timberline the following Tuesday. So that 3-game span I'm excited for. But Mountain View looks like I thought Mountain View was going to look like the second best team in the SIC. So excited to see what that group can do. They don't play Eagle till the very end of the year. I think the second last game of the year in October. So we'll have to wait for that, see how Mountain View can do on that up until then. But yeah, Mountain View, Eagle, and then we got Rocky Mountain, who I just talked about, Waihi, who I talked about. They're the 3-4 for me. Timberline drops out of the 4th spot. Meridian, who they were 2-0, then they lost to Mountain View. They're at 5 for me. They move up 2 spots. And then you've got Boise and Capital. So the reason Boise has beat who they're supposed to beat, and then they have a loss. They have a loss to Meridian, so they have to be below Meridian, hence why Meridian is above them. They've beaten Bora, they've beaten CUNA. They've done their part there. They lost to Post Falls in the championship of the CUNA tournament. It was impressive they got to that championship game. But then we go to Capital. Capital upset, in my opinion, upset Timberline in the first game that they played. Big surprise. I think everybody was surprised. I told the Rocky girls it happened, and they were all just like, what? But yeah, that was a surprise. I got some DMs from some a Capital player, not going to mention names, and she told me I needed to change my rankings. I love the smoke. I appreciate that. I'm learning. I'm trying to figure this out. I'm going to be wrong on the weekly on things that I say. And hopefully I'm right on a couple so people continue to listen. But anyway, I hope I told Capital, I keep receipts. Be careful. I keep receipts. Ladies, I keep receipts. And I want you to keep that same energy every game, because then Capital went and they lost to a Boise team who is not as good as Timberline. They just don't have the players Timberline has. And then they get swept by Boise. So I think maybe first game of the year, Timberline wasn't ready to go. It was on the road. They lost in the 5th set. Interested to kind of see what that is about. I watched Timberline this upcoming Tuesday at Eagle. So going to really see where they're at. Curious if they can take a set off of Eagle or not. They've got 3 monsters on that team who would start for probably any team in Piper Davis, Ali Cox, and Ava Brickner, maybe excluding Eagle. But those Ali Cox is one of the best players in Idaho all the way around. She can set, she can hit, she can pass. She's a full rotation girl. I don't know how they're going to use her, but she is such a good setter. I hope that's where she's at. But I know for Crush, she was hitting the ball. She's just like that. Allie Cox will be a first-team All-League girl as long as Timberline doesn't fall off the rails and finish in the bottom half of the league. But anyway, so Timberline has dropped all the way to 8 for me. That's not where they're going to end up. They ended up handling Centennial. Centennial who was rated right behind them in the 9 spot. Centennial goes to Timberline, tough place to win. I believe they lose in 4 games. Centennial also lost to Rocky Mountain, got swept by Rocky Mountain at home. That kind of popped my eyes open a little bit on Rocky Mountain, and I was really excited to see them play Eagle. And I kind of saw it there when I watched them play Eagle. It was impressive. But Centennial ran at home against Rocky, and then they lost at Timberline. So they dropped down to the 9 spot because Timberline has to be behind Capital at this point, and then Centennial drops down past Timberline because I don't think they're better than Timberline. Obviously, Timberline goes and beats them in 4 games. CUNA stays at 10, Middleton 11, Bora 12, Nampa 13 to round things out. Once again, best players I've seen in the SIC so far: Liv Manning, Maddie Hauskins. Last game I saw against Rocky, Avery Hassman, Hannah Pease, and Avery Charles. The libero and the 2 defensive specialists were game changers. Rocky Mountain was kind of controlling the game early on in the first set, and then Coach Hartman, I mentioned this earlier, Coach Hartman makes the switch and takes a couple players from being full rotation players and utilizes his defensive weapons on the bench, and man, it made a difference. And they took off from there. Liv Manning took over offensively, and those 3 defensively were tough to beat, tough to break, and I thought they made a huge difference. And I want to give them a shout out once again. Avery Hassman, Avery Charles, and Hannah Pease were unbelievable for Eagle, and they make them, extremely dangerous because offensively Eagle's going to be able to play with anybody, and they're going to be better than everybody offensively. Defensively was a question mark. Those 3 play the way they did against Rocky. Good luck against Eagle. They're going to be tough to beat. But anyway, I'm excited to watch Allie Cox and Piper Davis, Ava Brickner this Tuesday. Got a chance to see Waihi again. They've got ball players. And then Rocky Mountain threw some names out there for them. Chloe Hansen, the freshman for Rocky Mountain, she seemed to be their number 1 option. She is confident. They look for her, and I was impressed. I'm very impressed by the young talent in this league. Taryn Miller, the libero, is a sophomore, and then of course Waihi doesn't have a senior on their team, I don't think. They're really good too. So the young talent in the league, from what I've seen thus far, has been awesome. So let's jump over to 4A. The 4A, real quick, spend a couple minutes on this and then stop talking because I'm sure no one's even watching anymore. But anyway, Skyview's at 1. Skyview played Columbia, who actually moved up a spot to number 2. They played Columbia this past week. Columbia was 3. They swept Columbia, which everybody who knows anything about volleyball in the state probably anticipated. I thought Columbia was going to take a game. I think the Backstreet Girls, I think Columbia at this point, in my opinion, I may put Columbia as the 4th or 5th best team overall in Idaho, 5A, 4A combined. When it comes to 5A and 4A, I'm considering Columbia in that 4 or 5 spot for top overall team. From what I've seen, they dominated Waihi, and Waihi took a game from Eagle, and so this shows you there. And then they were there. The first set with Skyview, they were right there. 3-point game. Don't know how that ended. I'm assuming they, if you're there, group like that, you had a chance to win a set. And then after that, Skyview kind of, they won by 5 after that, and I think they won by 8. So Skyview, they're the best team in the state. Until proven otherwise, even if they go undefeated and win the state championship and Madison or Eagle goes undefeated, Skyview is a team you have to take. 2 of the top 10 players in the country, Alex Bauer, Alex Acevedo, the likes of Melissa Iyer and Sydney Ney and Bryn Perrin and Bellamy Buse, who's a top freshman in the state. They've got weapons everywhere. Good luck beating them. But anyway, Columbia is 2nd. Wood River jumps up 4 spots. They I had heard about Samantha Chambers at Wood River. Don't know anything about Wood River. Didn't know Wood River was a high school in Idaho until volleyball season. But Wood River and Samantha Chambers sweep Twin Falls, the defending state champs. I believe it was at Twin Falls. And so they jump up to 3 for me because they are handling business. They're handling everybody. I don't think they've lost. I'm sure they haven't lost. And so Twin Falls drops 1 spot because they're the defending champs, and they were at 2 previously. They dropped to 4. Bonneville for me stays at 5. They took a set from Madison. They lost to a Thunder Ridge team. I believe in 4 games as well. Thunder Ridge is 4. Madison is 1. Thunder Ridge, for me, that's more impressive for Thunder Ridge than anything. Bailey Kunz and those girls over there, they were solid last year. They took Eagle to the brink in the first round of the state tournament, like I said in my last podcast. So for Bonneville to take a set off a Thunder Ridge team and a Madison team, I'm keeping them at 5. I like Kylie Kofe. I like Ava Arfmann. I like that I've seen their roster. They've got some height. They've got some size. They've got some weapons. I'm excited about Bonneville. Just a team I'm excited about. Century, shout out to Adee Butler, the returning player of the year in that league. Adee Butler just got an offer from Westminster. And I know she's been waiting for that one. I know that was on her heart. So I'm excited for her. To see if she's gonna jump into that. That's awesome for her. Congratulations, Adee Butler. Century has had a little bit slower of a start to the year. They've come around lately, started to find their footing, but they got swept by Twin Falls. That's understandable. Twin Falls is the defending state champ, like I said, but got swept by Twin Falls, so dropped them a little bit. Twin Falls to 4. Bonneville stays at 5 for me. Century to 6. Idaho Falls. They dropped to 7 because I flat out think Century's just better with Adee Butler, the player of the year. But Sydney Hess at Idaho Falls, she's solid. Idaho Falls has been doing well. I know they lost a game to Madison recently. Madison is Madison. I believe they got swept. But I dropped them down just because I just think Century's probably better with a player like Adee Butler. Lakeland for me, the Lakeland girls hit me up. DM me and let me know what they did to Lewiston and Katie Wessels. Katie Wessels is one of the top recruits in the state of Idaho. She's going to University of Washington, who's picked to win the Pac-12 this year. So Katie Wessels is at Lewiston. She's an absolute beast. You got a girl like that, you can win any game against any team. So she's dangerous. So they go and they sweep Lewiston, who's 5A. They're 4A. They let me know about it, and then I started to follow them a little bit closer, and they're solid. That's a good team right there. I believe they took a set from Post Falls. I like that. So those girls are hungry. They wanted me to know that they got game. I can see that. I've been following them. I see what they got going on there up at Lakeland. They, for me, now become the favorite up north over Moscow. Moscow drops 1 spot to 9. Morgan Claus and her crew had a rough start to the season, but they did also beat Lewiston recently. They beat Lewiston, I believe, in 4 games. And so they're right there against Lakeland. Those two, I think, will fight it out for the league there. And then Valley View, Valley View is my new entry into the top 10 4A. They beat Caldwell. I believe it was 3-0, and Caldwell was in my top 10, and that's looking like a mistake at this point. Some of my research, I guess, there was not too in depth, but Valley View jumps in the top 10. Valley View is going to have a chance early this week to show us if they're a top 10 team or not with how they perform against Columbia, number 2 Columbia. I believe hosts Valley View, so that I'm interested to see if Valley View can hang at all. I think that league is top heavy. I think it's Skyview, Columbia, and then everybody else. But we will see if Valley View proves me wrong. So anyway, that rounds out my top 10 for the 4A rankings. It's been a fun week, a fun couple weeks. I'm going to pull up the schedule here for this week real quick. We can talk about what's going on this week. Let's see. We've got games this week. Not finding right now because I don't know how to work my computer. Here we go. We got Timberline at Eagle on Tuesday. I will be at that game providing coverage for that game. I will also be at the Eagle CUNA game Thursday because nobody else is playing Thursday except for Eagle and CUNA around here because everybody else is going to tournaments. Valley View at Columbia, like I said. We've got CUNA at Rocky, Burley at Twin Falls, Bora at Capitol. which see if Capital can continue to handle business. Bora is at the bottom of the league, so that's a game Capital should win if they're beating teams like Timberline. Emmett at Caldwell. Owyhee at Meridian's also interesting. A young Owyhee team goes into a confident Meridian team with a bunch of seniors, and that's going to be interesting. Can Owyhee go in and dominate Meridian like I think they should? I don't know, because that Meridian team, Aaliyah Skidmore, Mulaney Ogden, Sofie Rice, those girls are dogs over there at Meridian. All those athletes at Meridian, the basketball team, the football team, the volleyball team, they're dogs. They're tough kids. So that's going to be tough for Owyhee. I'm interested to see what happens there. And then we've got Skyview at Ridgeview, Minico at Canyon Ridge, Century at Highlands. I am so intrigued by that game. I would go to that game if I was back east. Century, slow start. Adee Butler just got the offer, going up against a Highland team that has surprised me, just came in. They're new into my top 10. I heard that they were going to be down this year. That doesn't look to be the case. Like I was talking about, Kaylin Hay and Ashton Smith over there at Highland. So Highland Century, tune in to see what happens there. I'm super curious. And then we've got Bonneville at Hillcrest. I like Bonneville there. Post Falls at Coeur d'Alene. Another interesting game. Coeur d'Alene has not lost. They jump into my top 10. They just went 5 games with Lakeland, and I believe won 16-14 in game 5. So for me, that says a lot about Lakeland, why I put Lakeland in my top 10 4A, and Coeur d'Alene is undefeated. And, got to put them there. Got to show them the love. They play Post Falls, home against Post Falls. Kylie Munday, and her girls, Trinity Byrne and Jenna Sarff. Let's see if Post Falls can go into their gym and hand them their first loss. And I anticipate they will. And I anticipate it being in dominating fashion. I'd be surprised if it went more than 4 games. But let's see how real Maddie Symons and Coeur d'Alene is. Maddie Symons, shout out to Maddie Symons, the hooper. She just set a record for kills in a game for Coeur d'Alene. She had 33 kills. The previous record was 31. Shout out Maddie Symons, just a pure athlete. Excited to see Coeur d'Alene play at some point this year. But I got Kylie Munday and her girls in that game. Lewiston at Lake City. Lewiston has been dropping a lot of games lately. They lost to Lakeland. They lost to Moscow, who are both 4A. They need to find a way to feed Katie Wessels 100 times a game, and I think they're going to be okay. Lake City has not lost. They have looked really good as well. That's at Lake City. That's going to be interesting to see if Lake City can continue their undefeated start. Lewiston is looking for a win. Should be an interesting game. That all being said, after that, there's some games on Wednesday, a couple games on Wednesday. I'm not going to talk much about right now. I will give you the score updates and Eagle Cuna on Thursday, and I will see if there's any other games on Thursday. But I will be at Eagle Cuna Thursday and Timberline at Eagle on Tuesday. So tune in. Just updated information. That's all I'm giving you guys. As we move along, I'll be doing, players of the week, and I can do some things like that and implement that. I just wanted to talk about the updated power rankings. I will post these, and I will continue to try and do this podcast and keep it around 20 minutes. I'm at 28 right now. Surprise, surprise. But I'll try and keep it between 20 and 25 minutes. Hope you enjoyed. Tune in. Good luck to everybody. Ball out.